All right, good evening. I would like to call to order tonight's Planning Commission meeting, February 22nd, 2022. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, sorry. Roll call.
Aye.
Here.
Here. Here. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, are there any citizens wishing to address the Planning Commission tonight? Okay. All right, so next item on the agenda is the minute approval. Kim, we've talked about one of the amendments that,
Yes, so, in July, you all nominated and, appointed Mr. Tierney as your chairperson, and the minutes have reflected, incorrectly since July, showing that Mr. Cottle was still the chairperson. So I will go back and reflect all the minutes prior. It would reflect showing that Mr. Bennett is the chairperson. So we have that on record for this in case I can't change it within the system. It'll be on record in this minutes that you were the chairperson as of July 1.
okay, I believe that's the only amendment that is necessary.
Showing that the chairperson is Mr. Bennett, not Mr. Carter.
Okay, so in lieu of the amendment, do we still vote on the?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Do we have all in favor of minute approval? Do we motion? Do we have a motion?
Move to adopt the minutes as as amended for January 18, 2022.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Oh, in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, agenda items. Site plan review, Robinson Paradise. Emily?
Yes. So tonight we have the Robinson Paradise site plan before us. This is an update to a previous site plan that was approved back in the early 2000s. So we have worked with D.R. Horton and Bowman to go through the site plan and update for new stormwater requirements. They've completed all of the modifications requested by myself and the town engineer, and we're at the stage of recommending approval. Are there any questions tonight from the Planning Commission regarding the site plan? We do have a representative here. If you have any questions, we can go through them together.
Go ahead, Mr. Weir.
The only question I have is regarding the access easement to 14984 and 14985 Walter Robinson. I see that there's a subdivision document for the property surrounding the, for lack of a better term, the Lunsford property, it looks like it's listed. I see the subdivision, but is there an easement document, an access easement document that goes along with that to ensure access to the two landlocked parcels?
I believe, I don't have Mapper right now pulled up, but if you have Mapper pulled up, I believe we're going to also need to make sure that it actually provides access to a multitude of lots beyond that. It's not just the Lunsford property and one or two behind it.
It passes directly next to the Lunsford property, but 14984 and 14985 are the two directly behind it that are landlocked. Let me see if there's any other landlocked ones back
I
there.
was thinking there was roughly 5 back there.
Actually, there are some more landlocked parcels back there, yes.
So I can work with the applicant on that and ensure that there will be an easement for access for all of those property owners to maintain their travel way back to their properties so they do not become landlocked.
Yeah,
As it's shown on here, it is shown as remaining, but we will go through the steps to ensure that that is an easement that they're all party to.
The only other one I'm seeing that's landlocked and doesn't have access to a public street is 14981. ownership withheld, so God knows who owns it. But it's the one that backs up to the access, well, sort of to the access road for the commuter lot.
Do you have the G-pin for that one, by chance?
Hang on a second.
Is it?
It's owned by the Neals.
Yes,
It's
I see it.
7298922118.
Yes, I see that one. I will again work with the applicant on it.
I don't know what their current access is, because they don't currently have, there's nothing shown on Mapper, obviously, because there's got to be some sort of access easement.
I think that property, does it extend all the way up to Heathcote?
No, it extends over to the, parking lot. You can see it here on Mapper. Bloody hell.
Oh, and for the record, while I'm walking, Mr. Howlett's arrived.
Sorry I'm late.
You're fine.
Let's see. It's this parcel here.
Okay.
Because the other stuff, yeah, it does not go to, now, I don't know if the owners of that parcel also own this parcel as well. I don't know who owns this one. Let me see if I can get it to work. Yeah, withheld. No, it's owned by somebody else. So that one, I mean, I don't know what the situation with it being landlocked right now is.
Okay. We'll work on figuring that one out. I know at some point there was a previous discussion with the developer who owns the parcel that touches Heathcote Boulevard.
This one?
Yes, that there would be access remaining for that lot behind it, which is the one we're talking about, owned by
Yeah.
the Neal Trust.
As long as we get that nailed down.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the commission? If there are no other questions, I can do a motion for you, or if somebody would like to make a motion recommending, I'm sorry, not recommending, a motion giving approval of the site plan for Robinson Paradise as presented in your packet this evening.
Do you have a number on that one?
First one of the year, so this approval would be SP 2022-0222. It's the date. First night.
So you need approval of the site plan?
Yes. SP for site plan.
Again, Emily, I think I've asked already, but this site plan does not include any changes or amendments in comparison to what was previously approved, right?
No, the only changes you'll see here are going to be for your stormwater management. That was the biggest item that we needed to get up to code and what our requirements call for.
In that case, Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of the site plan SP 2022-0222, contingent upon clarification of access to 14981, 14984, and 14985 Walter Robinson Lane.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any
I got
discussion?
late, so I'm just trying to absorb everything.
Sure. We can give you a couple minutes, so go ahead. maybe Emily can summarize the,
I don't want to take up too much of the applicant's time, but I just want to know what I'm
sure,
voting.
sure.
Excuse me.
Questions from the audience?
No, I just want to clear up. Obviously, I got here a couple minutes late. I just want to see what I'm.
So Rob,
Yeah.
I'll kind of quickly talk you through the 30,000-foot overview of it. Robinson Paradise is a neighborhood that came in the early to mid 2000s with D.R. Horton, and they wanted to develop single-family homes on the north side of Jefferson Street, north of Washington. So it's over the bridge, just after you get over a shared use path. It's there on the left. You'll see a road that right now is named Future Walter Robinson Lane.
Yeah.
So this development would go in back there. There are 20 homes that would go in, and you'll go straight down what will become Walter Robinson Lane. You'll have a cul-de-sac at the end and a small pipe stem that wraps back behind several of the units and puts in an additional 3. So originally they had their approvals. It sat on the shelf for some time, and then we have brought it back up. D.R. Horton was interested in finishing it off, as was the property owner. So here we are tonight. They have modified the stormwater requirements as they have changed since the original approval. So we've gone through 3 iterations of the plan with myself and the town engineer, going through everything just as we would our normal site plans. They have put in the sidewalk improvements that were requested as well up on the front of the neighborhood, so that'll continue our shared use path. And then they've done the modifications required for stormwater. So tonight we're asking the Planning Commission for their approval. Once approved, we'll finish working through the bonding documents with the applicant, and then they'll come to the Architectural Review Board for the review of the houses, and then ultimately make their way to the building department.
Okay.
So tonight we're at the site plan phase of requesting Planning Commission's approval.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And lot 8, 9, and 12 are the ones that need access, correct?
Can you repeat those numbers, please?
Lot 8, 9, and 12.
Those 8, 9, and 12 are going to have the pipe stem access. And then the lots, if you look at lot 18,
Mm-hmm.
there's a small area shown just to either side with dashed lines between that lot and the Lunsford lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the area we're talking about, that we want to ensure that easement access remains for 5 additional lots that sit north of the Lunsford lot. I'm going to hold up the paper so you guys can kind of look over this way. This easement goes upward where my hand is. There's 2 lots shown. There's an additional 2 that sit up here to the north. And then we're also talking about the lot that sits over here. There is going to be 1 lot that we want to ensure does not get landlocked. It butts up against the VDOT lot, another lot to the north of it that sits completely in the county, and then these lots that sit to the south of it that sit in the town.
It's a subdivided parcel not listed as an easement. That's what we need to confirm, is that there's an easement, there's an access easement.
Gotcha. So that was the discussion.
Motion,
I'm
right.
ready. Yeah.
I have one quick question. I'm coming in late on this project. When you go over the road and you go over 66, Robinson Lanes is there. There's already a bunch of homes there. Are those the ones that are listed on here? And
Yes.
so they're staying, right?
Yes, that's correct. So, if you look at this, so if you were to go over the bridge, this is going to be on your left where you would turn in.
Right.
So the road that currently exists is down here, and it's that old Walter Robinson Lane.
Yeah.
And there are 4 homes that sit here. One's a duplex. You have those four that are right up against the sound wall, 466.
Right.
Those four
Those are
are
all
going
staying?
to remain.
They're gonna stay, okay.
And they have their own private access is already in place, and it actually sits separate of the future Walter Robinson Lane.
So all the drainage has all been factored into those homes, that nothing is, that's all that grading and everything's all been part of the plan?
Yes. Yep. And then the lane itself has been aligned so it matches up with Jordan Lane, and that was per VDOT.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, please.
Aye.
Yes.
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 Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, next agenda items is comprehensive plan discussion.
Okay, Planning Commission. So tonight I've included the email from Bob Chrisman regarding the survey. It has been a very busy month with a lot of things going on, so I have not been able to draft up the survey. I do want to go ahead and get this out in March. We'll have another newsletter going out. I think it's very important we finalize this. We get the questions once and for all done and sent out. So tonight, I would like to spend some time working with the commission, going through these items, and then answering any questions we might have outstanding, and finalizing the questions tonight at our meeting. So, how about I give everybody 3 or 4 minutes to kind of read through, refresh your memory on the email that was included in your packet tonight, and then we can discuss. You guys ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay. So. We had a lengthy discussion at our last meeting regarding the number of questions that we would like to see on our survey. Taking Commissioner Chrisman's email comments into discussion. Do you guys want to go through each of the questions and decide if we like it and just work through it that way? How do you guys exactly want to attack this? I think to address one of the very first comments about having a introductory paragraph, yes, we will include an introductory paragraph. We will probably most likely have kind of a cover letter that goes out with this survey that kind of says, "Dear resident, here's what we are trying to accomplish here." Explain it very briefly, but something that gets the terms across of what we're trying to accomplish, and then following it up with, of course, thanking them for their time and the different options they have for how to fill it out and where to turn it in, so forth and so on. So we will work through that item. I think that the second point here, we want to know what it is that the mayor and town council want to know and why, and then we can tailor the questions better to meet their needs. So with this, it's very much you guys as the planning commission. This is y'all's survey. This is for you guys to ultimately utilize the information to help draft our long-range plan, our comprehensive plan. So a lot of what you guys need answered as a commission is most important. Of course, mayor and town council may have other questions. They may want other data points. But this is really to get in the door, start with our questions, really just start to open the can here and really get into the nitty-gritty of a deeper conversation. We can go through, I can work on all of the formatting, certainly, so that it appears very nice. I would like to get it to be one page total so that you're not flipping back and forth. We don't have to waste a bunch of paper. We can utilize our resources the best way possible.
Start with that. Make sure everybody understands. This particular survey has nothing to do with the mayor and the town council. Planning tool. It's a long-range planning tool. What we need to do is establish a baseline and either confirm or debunk what common perceptions are. Either we still have the correct common perceptions or they've changed in the last decade. Actually, more like 15 years. And all we're trying to do with this survey is establish some broad baselines as to generally what they want to see, what they're happy with, what they're not unhappy with, that we can address with a comp plan, in terms of land use planning, transportation, the transportation aspect of it, the utilities and all of that. And as a result, the questions are going to have to be overly broad, and I would suggest we put a comment box below each question so that people don't feel completely constrained to where you're leading that. You give them some options to some questions, some you make them write extemporaneously, and others you offer them the opportunity to write their own comments. Some will write nothing, some will write a couple of words, some will write a sentence, and some residents we know will write a couple of pages on each question. So, but that's the purpose of it, is just to get some background information to ensure that the base parameters either are or still aren't in play since the last time the comp plan was amended.
After reading Mr. Chrisman's comments, it almost looks like we can throw away 12 of these questions and we only need to keep like 6. Will that be enough? Because 12 of these questions appears like question 1 we can throw away, question 3 is not applicable, 7 and 8. Yeah, the only questions that seem 2, 4, this is what I'm getting out of it at least, 9, 14, 15, 17, yeah, were the only, the rest we can throw away.
I would disagree.
So I would challenge us together as a group to talk through some of these questions and determine what a simple answer would ultimately mean for us. So, for example, number 3, your overall quality of life in Haymarket. Depending on how you answer this question, satisfied, not satisfied, no opinion, or you give a comment, this very simple question could then open up another can of worms. If you're not satisfied with your quality of life in Haymarket, we want to find out why. We want to find out who's not satisfied, but we also want to find out what we can do in the long-range planning to change that. So, Rob, I'm going to use you as an example. If you say you're not satisfied because there's not enough recreation for your children to participate in the town within an easy walking distance when they get home from school that they could take themselves to, then what we would want to do is we would want to make sure when we go through our comprehensive plan, do we have the right Parks and Rec development in our town? And if not, how can we change that? What can we set up in the future to make a difference there? If we can't do it and we can't provide it, how can we reach out and work with other jurisdictions to modify that? So this kind of gives us a little bit of a snapshot as to where we have areas that people aren't satisfied and how we can change that. On the other,
You would
go ahead.
need question 1 to contextualize that.
Okay.
Somebody
Yeah.
who's been here less than a year and is unhappy about recreational opportunities is going to have a far different outlook on the recreational opportunities, the limitations of the town, and an understanding of how we interact with the county than, say, somebody who's been here 10 plus years. It's a matter of, you've got to know your audience and question. In order to interpret help interpret the comments, you need question 1 to contextualize some of the answers, in theory.
So maybe with that, what we do is we just start and let's just go through one question at a time as a whole commission, and we can kind of use this as a work session if everyone's okay with that.
Going back to what you were saying about the comments, I kind of like that idea because I actually did a survey at work today, and it allowed just one line, and mentally I was telling myself I gotta write something, but if you gave several lines for every question, I think that would be a little overwhelming, but like Mr. Weir said about having just enough space to put a couple comments down.
Just the opportunity to comment.
Yeah. Because I literally went through every question because it was only a little bit of space and just wrote down a response. But had there been probably 3 or 4 or 5 lines, I probably would have been driven away by that, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Okay, why don't we start at the first question? Certainly, we can get rid of the kind of section dividers, so part 1, part 2. I can understand how that does come across as, wow, how many parts of this survey are there? What did I get myself into? So I will go ahead and strike that. We'll come up with a nice title for it. So how long have you lived in Haymarket? Do we like the wording on this question? Do we want to modify it?
If you want to add town of to make it more specific, so that you're not dealing with the geographic region, but specific to the town itself. Because this all regards the town as an entity and not as a region.
Okay.
Is the target audience the residents, not just residents of Haymarket, or are you targeting also business owners within the town limits of Haymarket? You
I-
get very different answers to that question, some of the questions, depending on the target audience.
Right. I would say that this very first survey to start the conversations and to help us pave our path forward will be just for the residents. When we work through the economic development chapter, then we would of course want to reach out and have a different stakeholder group with our business partners, our businesses in town, and some of the other organizations that are outside of town but really function in the town.
Emily, do we have the list of questions somewhere here in the
Oh,
agenda?
yep,
Or
let
where do we
me,
have
I'm
that?
gonna run off a quick copy for everybody. You'll see that I started editing the first one. Kim will pass those out. So the first one, the answers are less than 1 year, 1 to 2 years, 3 to 7 years, 7 to 10 years, 10 plus years. I certainly think here we could narrow this down to 4 categories. We could say less than 2 years. We could have a category of 3 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, and 10 plus. Really here, maybe splitting hairs. I don't know how everybody feels about these answers.
Emily, can you tell me why we are asking that question? What is the purpose of that question? I mean, we're not going to say someone who's lived here for 10 years, their opinion matters more than someone who's lived
Certainly
here
not.
1 year, right?
No.
But why are we asking that question?
So we can use this information for a lot of different reasons. One of the reasons that I would look at it kind of as an example, if you're newer to the town, do you know all of the services that we offer? If you have been here quite some time, are you, frustrated with traffic because, all the change that you've seen over the years? I think it'll help us gauge some of the other context answer-wise, but if you guys feel that it shouldn't be asked or if we should be asking a different question, by all means, ultimately this is the Planning Commission survey.
Okay.
So
So
I'm-
what you just said makes sense, right? If we can map that question to other questions, for example, like you said, in relation to traffic, right? I've been here for 13 years, right? I see traffic getting worse and worse, right?
The
So
other,
I'm more prone to say yes.
right. The
Okay.
other example, if we put a question in here about services, hypothetically, if we say, did you know that the town of Haymarket has a DMV select office that, is open by appointment only, or however you phrase it. If we state a service in there, but somebody who lives here for 10 years said that they didn't know we had that service, that's also eye-opening for us because clearly we are not doing our very best in communicating what we offer. We're not doing our very best to get all of the services that we offer out there to our residents, especially our residents who have lived here, 10+ years. So that's information that we need to find, are they being communicated to? If so, is it a productive way of communication, or do we need to reevaluate just the very simplest terms of how we communicate with our residents?
I would strip it down to less than 1 year, 1 to 5, 5 to 10, and 10 plus. Just those 4 options. I don't think you need 3 options for 10 years.
I mean,
Oh, no, go ahead.
somebody that's been here 10+ years is gonna view traffic a whole lot different. Somebody just moved in here. So somebody, I mean, in theory, why would anybody complain about traffic that just moved here if they just bought here? Does that make sense? Or somebody's been here for a while?
And
Some people complain all the time about
And-
Well, some
anything.
people are gonna complain about anything, but
certainly traffic is something that is all relative to what you're used to and what you're not used to, so that is probably a very weighted question in general. Some people want no traffic, and traffic to them is they have to follow another car out of their neighborhood, and some
Right.
people think that traffic is, all of Washington Street, bumper to bumper, and you have to sit there for 30 minutes, but it's relative.
Yeah, so basically having more choices is just for us to kind of determine, get a deeper dive into the demographics. Is that all we're doing? We're not really accomplishing anything.
Well, it gives you, by having the years here, it sort of gives you a sense. If a question runs across all groups, then you know you've got a real issue. If it's confined to one particular group, then the question is it because they haven't been here long enough to understand what's going on, or is it an age-old problem that just hasn't been addressed for whatever the reason? It can't be fixed. There's not enough resources for it, but it gives you, it's just one more data point to kind of figure out where people are coming from and why they're coming from and why they're answering in certain ways.
Okay.
you could really extrapolate all the data by how long they've lived here. In other words, somebody that's lived here 10 or more years is going to fill this survey out totally different. Somebody's lived here less than 5 years.
Yeah.
The one key that I see for this one, if we're to keep it, is if, depending on how you tabulate the data, if the majority of the people that responded to the survey indicate that they've been here from 1 to 5 years, and that's the bulk of the people that respond to it, the people who have been here 10 years or longer, you get nobody that circles that. You get only people that circle the first 2 or 3. Then you know what you're dealing with in terms of an audience. You know that you've got basically all the new people have answered this, not the people that have been here. So, like, I've lived in Haymarket for 20 years, almost 20 years. I'm probably not going to, I probably wouldn't answer this because I've been here 20 years. I've lived through countless mayors, countless town councils, seen and heard, and I'm at this point, I'm like, and that a lot of people might say that, but a lot of people might also say, I really did think, so that question will give you, if people answer it, that's the one thing I can see that the benefit of the question is that you'll be able to gauge who your audience is in terms of longevity of who's here. It won't tell you who, if they're retired and they've lived here for a period of time versus a brand new, single person or a person with kids or whatever. You won't get that demographic necessarily from that question, but you'll just get an idea of who you're kind of dealing with in terms of longevity. So it's beneficial for that.
Right. That's a good point.
Because especially if you get nobody that answers that's been here 7 to 10 years or longer, then that's very problematic in itself. That means you just hit a very small segment of your population.
Right. Okay. That's good feedback.
Yeah, personally, I'm, based on the discussion, I'm okay keeping it. And in terms of the different choices, it's okay to keep it as is, or we can, also be okay to go with what Mr. Weir recommended, but I don't know what the other.
Well, going back to the last survey, it looks like it was relatively well responded to across all all groups, just, they've lumped everybody less than 10 years into one group and then 16% more than 10 years. I don't remember what the actual question was, but I think it went along these lines. So 4 categories had 84%. So that's what, 21% of, on average, and then 16% more than 10 years, which is not unusual, given how people are, selling when the kids are gone, getting out of here. Some turnover.
When was the last survey? Was it 2014?
2006.
Oh, wow.
Long time ago.
Oh, wow. So we can, that was a long time.
The demographics may probably have changed significantly
Oh, yeah.
because there's been a lot of turnover in the houses.
So I will leave that question for now, and I've slightly modified the answers so that we could get it down to just 4. So I have less than 1 year, 1 to 4 years, 5 to 9, and 10 plus. Second question, your top reasons for moving to the town of Haymarket. I will add the town of in there. I did also add a parentheses after this question that they could select more than one response. I think here that some people certainly might look at a couple of these different options and they might have chosen to live out here for more than one of these reasons. Are there any reasons that you guys feel we need to add to this question?
Actually, this question again, if the purpose of this questionnaire is to drive the comprehensive plan and influence our decisions, what have you. If somebody says, like, I moved to the town of Haymarket for the small town atmosphere, what are we going to do about that? Are we going to keep the small town atmosphere? I mean,
So I think that would then challenge you guys as the planning commission as well as staff and council to think through what do we currently do to still harbor and foster a small town atmosphere. And if one of those things is our events and how we hold our events and we really call out our residents, have them join us for a summer concert in the park, then we need to make sure we're still offering those services. If another small town atmosphere is how we have some local mom and pop businesses who are, known people in our community that our residents go to and they support their businesses, maybe it's something the town council can look at providing business grants during an economic development phase where we really encourage that small town feel. So sometimes we have to get creative. This just opens up the box of people moved here for small town. Let's hypothetically say 75% of our people respond and say, I moved here for a small town atmosphere. Then we're challenged to think through, what do we still offer that makes us a small town? We have development going on throughout our town from east to west and north and south. So what are we doing to make sure we're still offering a small town atmosphere and we're not getting away from that?
I think from a land use perspective, it gets to massing.
based on what has been happening so far, I don't know about that, Emily. I don't know.
So, it gives you guys as a planning commission a challenge to think through in your comprehensive plan of, if we build out, what can we do next? You can certainly build out land, but we can refocus a economic development section in our core area of the town. How many vacant lots do we have that we could come in and we could, tell council part of our comprehensive plan is that we really need to work on our small town atmosphere, and one of the ways we can do this is a small business grant program for our vacant lots. So there's a lot of different creative options that we can all think through of how we could accomplish these goals, but until we know how people respond and why they wanted to be here, we won't quite know how to approach the answers and the long-term planning. There's always the easy hold events, keep people coming to the small town events, make them very resident focused, and then there's your bigger picture ideas of how do we get the businesses in here that harbor and foster that type of community.
Or conversely, how high and how big do you go or not go?
Yep.
Well, small town's subjective too,
Yeah.
Yes.
depending on where you're from.
And if 75% of people say they moved here for small town atmosphere, then our next step will be, we want to make sure that we hear, what do people mean by small town atmosphere? We'll want to hold one of our charrette events, and we might focus that whole topic on, what does small town atmosphere mean to you and your family? And we really want to hear that feedback as well, so that we make sure we're not just making an assumption.
Well, right now, basically, we have 2 traffic lights, correct?
Yes,
And we're gonna
Not
have
for
a
long.
third one.
that's
Right,
correct.
but still, if you say most towns, 2 to 3 traffic lights, you're thinking small town. And relatively speaking, we're still a small town. If you go into the city of Fairfax, city of Manassas, old town areas, they're much bigger than this and a lot
Yes.
more densely populated than this. Even Leesburg, old town Leesburg, so I think it's all relative.
Well, and I think bulk of our traffic are not even from residents. It's mostly people driving through
Oh, yeah.
and going to Walmart and going to, not stopping in town, just trying to get a cut across. So,
But with the building of the county, you can't,
yeah, you can't control that.
you can't control that. We have a 1-mile review, but, I mean, we can only control what goes on within our town limits. I would say on here, your second bullet point, you could simply say affordable housing. One bullet point could be quality of schools. I mean, those are things that people look when they buy homes, is it affordable housing and what are the schools?
Yeah, I would definitely pull schools out of the proximity to service and make that a separate bullet point.
So if the.
School quality or quality of the
Let's
school.
assume 75% of those who respond choose affordable housing. What does that mean in terms of planning? I'm just trying to understand what. what does
Affordable
it mean?
housing is a term that is by its very nature undefined and means a million different things to a million different people and has absolutely no definition of the county, and the term affordable housing drives me nuts.
No, but as planning commissioners, comprehensive plan, if most people or the responders, most of those who respond say, I moved here because of affordable housing, what does that mean for us? I mean, as a town,
It doesn't mean anything because affordability is based on what your income and what your ability to lend or to get a mortgage for is in the context of this question. Yeah,
Affordable housing is a real term in the real estate world, because if you go into Fairfax with taxes, I mean, you cannot buy a single-family home in Fairfax now for under $750,000 unless you're buying a complete reno project. You can still come out here and buy a single-family home for under $700,000.
but
It's
is that
not going to be
affordable
long.
housing?
Well, it's
And by
affordable.
definition, the answer is no.
Well, it's affordable if
Comparing
you
it
can
to
afford
an
it.
average
it's not about the
median
price.
income for the country.
Yeah, I mean, affordable housing is, the definition of affordable housing is based on a certain income level as a percentage of the population. And Prince William County has still refused to, at least so far as the discussions I've been following recently, still haven't accommodated that number. They don't want to talk about the number. They just want to, we need X number of affordable housing units, but that's not the question we're asking. You're not asking if they came here because of affordable housing. You're asking if they came here because of housing that was available within their price range. And that's a different concept.
Well, that one question right there, you could write a whole survey.
But again, going back to, from the planning perspective, what are we going to be able to do as a town in order to make homes,
Personally, I would take that one out, but, I mean, just the housing availability aspect of it, because it's not going to give you anything. it's not going to give you an answer that you can do anything with.
Well, but you could build condominiums, you could build townhomes. We have some of those. I think it's a valuable question. You know, why have people moved here?
Yeah, I'll leave it. I'm kind of agnostic on taking it out or leaving it in. I can go either way.
I don't think, again, I don't think the town can.
Facts, that's why I moved out here.
I can also rephrase the answer so that it's more of a, you either moved here for affordable housing / housing availability / type of housing. I think in a sense, especially during COVID, some of you probably have seen this as well. We saw a lot of people move out of cities out to areas that are, you know, wider open, like out here. We also had some people who were downsizing, or they took advantage of the market being, you know, very high. They sold their homes. They were able to get into another home that was larger or, you know, of a different type. So we could rephrase the answer as well. Give 3 options.
I would steer clear of using the term affordable housing, because you may, in some counties, the term workforce dwelling units, if you're familiar with that term, that's affordable housing
Yeah.
to a lot of people.
What are you asking? Are you asking
It's-
affordable housing? Or are you asking workforce housing? And frequently, jurisdictions will conflate the two.
Yeah, and then you have
And-
people say, well, are you talking about like low-income housing? Are you talking, you know, all that, and you're getting into a very sticky.
Yeah, you get into the affordable housing, workforce housing, Section 8 housing.
Okay.
Yeah, I would stay away from the term affordable housing.
I disagree, but if others don't want to use that phrase, we use it all the time in real estate, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
That's right, that's why
And-
you don't
and
want
that's
to
the
use
problem.
it. That's the problem, you don't want to use that. You want to have a term that is pretty much understood by everybody
But
across
I
the
think
board.
if you ask most citizens, why did they move here, especially the ones that get on 66 every day and commute, most people, given their druthers, aren't going to drive to DC if they can afford to live closer.
Yeah, but
But see,
I have
that's
an
the problem.
idea.
Affordability at $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 is one thing, but is that affordable housing? And then you get into the social issue of what is affordable housing. And I think for our purposes, the last thing we need to do is to get in a social argument over what we were talking about in the question. Are you saying that we don't, that, are you saying as a jurisdiction that a $700,000 house is affordable housing, which if you put the question in, some would interpret it, or are you saying, other people would say, are you insinuating that we need more affordable housing, or the house, or the inventory in the town is made up of affordable / workforce / Section 8 housing? It's a buzzword that will cause us more trouble than, I mean, it's just the word affordable. We can call it whatever else we want, almost. I would just stay away from the word affordable, because it's a buzzword right now that's causing all sorts of issues. You go to Prince William County, it's causing all sorts of issues for the very same reasons. Nobody is willing to define it.
What if we rephrase the answer to cost of housing
Home prices.
or home prices? Because certainly during COVID, some people might have moved out here for that reason. I think it's still getting at, did you move out here because the housing was affordable, but it gets us away from the issue of, because not hypothetically, if you look up another term for affordable housing, you get public housing, low and middle income housing, low cost housing, market rate housing, public sector. So there's so many terms out there. So I think if we simplify it to how home prices, cost of housing, cost of homes, is that a better way to get the
I think it's a
same
more, I
answer?
think it'll give you a more accurate reflection of, if they're going to choose that answer, it'll give you a more accurate reflection of what they were thinking. And you're not going to have to interpret affordable.
Housing availability price is fine as is, or you can break it out to housing availability and then price separate, right?
I think you guys are splitting hairs,
But-
but if that's what you want to do.
But again, what if the majority of the responders select housing price as the number one reason why they moved? And so what does that mean for us as a town, as a planning commission? I mean, what does that mean? How's that going to influence? What are we going to do about keeping housing affordable or, I'm trying.
I'm with you 100% on that. I mean, that question, if you're, we moved out to Haymarket 20 years ago. We lived in, we'd been overseas and we came back and we found the nice communities. We liked the town, so we found a house that was within what we wanted and we bought it. We couldn't buy that same house today, so, yeah, I think it's a dicey question.
Well, I would suggest this. Does it give us a reference point we can use in long-range planning? Probably not. Does it give them an option to be honest about why they came here? And if that's the largest thing, if that's the largest box checked, and nobody's checking small-town atmosphere, nobody's checking rural character, then you can kind of get a sense of what you do and what you don't need to focus on otherwise. Or if it comes back the other way around, everybody's checking small-town atmosphere, rural character, and not so much availability, then it kind of gives you an idea of the relevancy of those options. You have to give them an option that they can truthfully answer. Is that particular option of any particular value to us? Who knows?
But you could say the same thing about schools. We have as a town planning commission, we cannot impact the quality of the schools. We can't impact the hospitals. So if we use that same logic about housing, then we need to throw this whole question out because we can't impact any of that. So if we're going to throw the one out, we need to throw the whole question out.
Or we just reduce it down to small-town atmosphere, or rural character, and other. And leave it at that.
Can we keep the whole thing open-ended?
We can also.
Or just put comment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can keep it open-ended and we can put 3 blanks and let them fill out their top 1, 2, and 3
I could live with that.
reasons. If we left it, the only other modification I had was proximity to services. I actually put local businesses in there and I took schools out because, some people look for a community like this where their children can walk somewhere after school. If they're not home, they can walk somewhere, so.
How about asking the question, I think this would maybe help us better for planning is, what keeps you living in the town of Haymarket?
What's your motivation for staying?
Like, why do you live in the town of Haymarket?
The only other,
Because then because you might get some response, well, we're thinking about leaving, why? Well, because, we're retired now and the kids are growing, so we need a smaller home, or we don't like having all the big, huge chain stores around, or we've lost the rural atmosphere, or, we're gonna stay because we really like the way the town, I think that might give you a better.
Or why don't we just combine it into one question? Reasons for moving to and remaining in Haymarket, and just leave it open-ended and a blank.
And have them fill it out.
the only thing I got thinking about if you leave an open-ended question, you're getting a lot of data, but is it so much data that you're collecting that you're like overwhelmed with all the different responses?
Well, that's one of my concerns with the
So-
whole survey is how do we gonna analyze the data? Who's gonna
Yes.
analyze it? How are we gonna analyze it?
You guys are. No. So we'll collectively do it as a group. But I think this one, if we were to say top reasons for moving to and remaining in the town of Haymarket, what we could do is we can look at, let's say we get a combination of 15 different answers. We can decide which ones are similar. If it's small town feel and local businesses, can we lump that into community? So they stay here for community. or if you have the schools and housing availability. So we can kind of categorize those and then make something, we can make a nice pie chart, something that then shows that data in those different categories. We don't know till we get the answers. Somebody could be out there and they could come up with, you know, I stay here because my grandma lives next door.
You'll get a
And then
lot of
we'll-
people that comment, they're here, especially some of the newer people. You've got a significant number of people that are moving in strictly to be in the Battlefield School District. Now, that's going to change, since I think we're scheduled for the new one, aren't we?
Yeah, they've already started there this year,
Yeah, yeah,
Gainesville.
Marchand's, the daughter's a freshman at the new school.
And
Yeah.
that might be a downside now for some people. Not wanting their kids to cross 29, or not wanting them to go to the new, well, some will want them to go to the new school, some won't. So, it'll give us some input, some feedback on where that stands, because that we actually can work with the county on in future years when they start redistricting and moving the school boundaries around again, because they're going to have to.
So I will rephrase the question to top reasons for moving to and remaining in the town of Haymarket. We'll leave it open-ended with them being able to write in 3 responses. Does that sound good to everybody? I think 3's good enough. That'll give us a good snapshot.
Yeah, the only important part of question 3 is the last part, comment.
And does question 2, now that it's rephrased to top reasons for moving to and remaining in the town of Haymarket, does that answer that they're satisfied because they've chosen to stay here for options 1, 2,
No.
or 3?
They may be staying here because they can't get out of their mortgage. They may be staying out of here because they're upside down in their mortgage. Their kids might be in school and they feel like they have to stay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, 2 isn't necessarily going to answer 3.
If you're upside down in your mortgage right now, you might want to look at the right numbers, because there's no one in the town of Haymarket upside down in their
Oh, I
mortgage.
can name someone who refinanced his house 4 times. But that's an extreme case.
You might look at year over year for the Northern Virginia real estate data.
So question 3, overall quality of life in Haymarket. We're going to leave the question as is. Yes, no?
I would get rid of no opinion.
Yeah.
I would either say satisfied, not satisfied, comment.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, if they don't have an opinion, what do we care if they answer it?
Yeah, if they don't have an opinion on that, they probably don't have an opinion on anything else.
Okay, question 4, how often do you go walking within the town? So I think that the importance here is that we state we're a walking town and we have walkability. So we want to gauge if our respondents are utilizing those infrastructure pieces.
Especially with the investment we're about to make.
But if someone doesn't, I think this is I mean, I know what we're trying to get at, but this is not a really great question.
No.
You could say it's a walkable town, but you never walk because you hate to exercise.
Correct. Or
So this, whether you
You
walk
might not-
daily, weekly, monthly, or never, that doesn't really change the fact whether it is or is not a walkable town.
and you as a resident or a homeowner or the respondent to the survey, you might choose not to walk and utilize that service. However, you might not be thinking, oh, Susie gets off the bus and walks over to the town park every day, then walks to get ice cream with her friends, and she utilizes the services, but yet you're just thinking of yourself as the adult answering. So I think we can phrase it better.
How often does your household?
We can say, we could almost rephrase it to, does your household utilize the the infrastructure in town?
Why don't you just
Yeah,
say, do you think this is
streetscape.
a walkable town?
Yeah, yes or
I
no?
think this is a walkable town.
I could
That's
live with that.
simple.
I could
Okay.
live with, I could live with that as a
Yes
much
or
more
no?
simple.
Yeah, they're gonna say yes or no, but then, but I mean, that doesn't give you a whole lot, but at least, based on what you've said, Emily said earlier, is that that's the starting point for further questioning.
I could go with yes, no comment.
Yeah. Is this a, you know,
Do you, how are we gonna phrase it? Do you view the town as walkable?
yeah, is this a walkable town?
Is Haymarket a
The town
walkable
of
town?
Haymarket, a
Walkable
safe,
town.
walkable town, yes
Yeah.
or no?
Yeah, because I can certainly say, like, where that, I think it's the Shriners Club, that strip along there, that's not safe to go
Mason.
walking down there, that's a
Mason
terrible,
Lodge, yeah.
it's a terrible street. Walking down, well, of course, the hotel right now, like I said, in my comments here, it's not the best time to ask that question after all the construction, but,
Actually, it is the best
But
time
when the
because of what's
hotel's
coming down
done,
the road.
I mean, when
in
the
terms-
hotel's done, you got a whole section there of the hotel, it doesn't have a sidewalk in the back of it, you know, I mean, that street is not walkable there.
But you also have a business district and a residential district.
Yeah, I mean, so I
And
think
we
that's,
have different components in different
Right.
planning parts of the town as well.
Yeah.
So I am doing it so it's yes, no, and then comment, so that if you say no, you can certainly add no because
Right.
the streetscape's not finished, or crosswalks, lighting.
traffic's too fast, too busy.
I don't know any town that has every square inch of walkable space. I mean, I feel like we got a lot of places to walk, but
We got a lot of gaps too.
yeah, we do, but I mean, yeah, there's a lot of towns though that have gaps.
So what are we changing the question to?
Is the town of Haymarket a safe, walkable town? And then the answer
Why
options
don't you
are,
say walkable community? That way you're not saying town twice.
the options are yes, no, and comment. They might say no, because we don't have snow removal.
Don't start.
Okay, so question 5, do you feel you are informed about what is going on within the town? I think we could maybe rephrase this to say, are you satisfied with the communication from the town?
I think as a baseline question, just so that we know. I mean, I think the question is fine the way it is. This is more of an intel question than anything else. Because if they don't feel like they're informed, then we need to know why.
Can we put, if no, please explain why?
There's also a burden of the community to want to inform themselves too.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a website. There's a boatload of information. Most people have computers.
From a comp plan standpoint, I think we can actually get rid of question 6.
I think the town, do we still send out newsletters?
Yes.
Yes.
What is the approximate cost?
I don't know what they are.
I would have to run the numbers,
the
a couple
parade,
reams of
maybe?
paper. Postage just went up, so I would say it's less than 500, so we'd probably spend no more than $2,000 a year on our 4 newsletters. 'Cause we use bulk mail. Yeah,
We're using bulk mail on that, right?
we are using bulk mail.
How about on that informed town, something about the town's website? Because if you ask a question, you might pick an interest to somebody actually go to the website.
By asking
That would be a
this,
separate question. How are you informed about town, or how do you find out about town events? Newsletter, website,
Event,
word of mouth, events?
yeah, so maybe that's
It's a
more.
valid question.
That's what my question is on 5, that's what I put in there. What are the best means of communication to keep you informed of town activities?
So why don't we add that as another question, and then we can list out,
And then get rid of 6?
yes, 6 is town and Haymarket events one, right? Or Haymarket events,
Yeah.
satisfied.
from a long-range planning perspective, I don't see the real value. I don't know why Linda put that in there in the first place, but
Isn't that what small towns do? Lots of events? and
yeah,
stuff
but
that
from a
makes them
plan,
small
from a
towns.
planning perspective, in terms of economic development and transportation and mobility and all of that, I don't know that it particularly, I mean,
Who plans for the, I don't know the answer, so that's why I'll ask. Who within the town within the government here is responsible for, like, making the parade, say a spring festival, a fall festival, that's, okay. So those are the things that make you feel like you're in a small town,
You got a team
you
now.
know?
And yes, I have a team now, but yeah, it's.
no, you're not getting a third.
Because I remember way back, like in 2007, 2008, the Haymarket Day Parade and all that was huge, huge event. And the last few years, now COVID aside, it's really hasn't, I mean, over the years, it's shrunk a lot.
Believe it or not, we actually got a lot of complaints several years ago
I mean, we had
about the sheer length of it.
Yeah, that was from business owners saying, hey, you're keeping.
Actually, no, it was from
you
the,
know,
a lot of it was from the residents. You know, why is it now an hour and a half long?
And a lot of residents are barking about Haymarket days now because they can't get into their
Yep.
homes. I've
And
heard
that's
more
gonna be an increasing
complaints in the
problem.
past 2 to 3 years because
That would be a good question to ask then. If you're getting feedback like that people are starting to bark about it, because then you want to know, maybe they don't want to do these events anymore. Maybe the town doesn't want them anymore. So stop doing the parade, stop doing the festivities.
I heard more complaining this year from citizens of why we shut down and we can't get in our homes. But again, that goes back to how long have you lived here. If you've lived here a long time, you remember, quote, the good old days, whatever those were, you know what I mean? And
Still
somebody
couldn't get
just,
out of your house.
right, but somebody that just moved in that's not accustomed to that, they see it as an inconvenience, even though it's a one-day-a-year
So that
thing.
feedback would be very good if you got a lot of feedback saying, I don't want the roads blocked anymore. That tells us as a planning commission, then if we want to continue the festivities, we have to do it on the grounds that's not interfering with the traffic. So that rearranges the planning. You do it at that park
Yeah,
up
but
the street
unfortunately-
or,
Although
So
I
that-
wish we were in charge of that planning, we're not.
yeah.
Even though it's planning, that's,
No, so we don't do that. You just said,
The
That's-
events.
the events are done separately from the,
Kind of falls
So then
at
why
the-
so that
the
question wouldn't-
council level.
so then that shouldn't be on here then. If we don't, as a planning commission, have a say in that,
That's why I wanted
in
to
those
take it
planning,
out,
then
yeah.
it doesn't belong on there then.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I
okay.
wanted to get rid of.
Okay. Well, that
Question
makes sense
6.
then. Yeah.
Question 7 is, we're basically answering our own question.
It's a negative question. We've already predetermined how they're gonna think.
Yeah, we're basically
Guess we
telling
could
them,
Then, again, go back to the 3 blanks. What are the primary, I don't have an issue doing it that way.
yeah.
But could we make it more neutral so that we're not putting a negative connotation on the question?
Yes, so if I may.
What are the issues or changes needed, issues facing or changes needed in the town?
Can we think of a different word other than issue?
How about what I wrote?
Opportunities?
Prioritize what you would like the town government to address as immediate needs.
I like that.
I like that.
Okay, and get rid of both questions 7 and 8.
It's in my comments, under question 7/8,
7 and 8, the way they're written are just negative.
second line on page 3. That's actually really good feedback for us as a planning. We could figure out, okay, what does the town want us, what do the residents want us to do first?
Then you can get rid of 7, 8, 9, 10,
Well, 7 and 8 are just a gripe session.
and so is 9.
Give me 1 second to catch up. Okay. I'm with you now.
But we
What is
have-
the most important change needed, so we're deleting that?
What is the most important change needed?
And I guess if you're gonna do 1 as change, and then I would do 1 as improvements, and then get rid of everything through 11. Because those 2 should cover 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, right? Theoretically?
backing up just a second, we got rid of what is the primary issue facing the town. We replaced it with prioritize what you would like the town government to address as immediate needs. And then I can always put in parentheses there, town government. I can give them some ideas if we would like to include.
No, just leave it blank.
Okay.
Yeah, I would leave it blank.
My concern with that is needs, that to me does not translate into challenges. So we have to be able to seek from the town residents, both good and bad, right?
Well, you would follow that up with the second question would be, what changes would you like to see made, or something like that? Because then you're not addressing a need, you're addressing what you would like to see. And then you could literally ditch 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
We need to be able to allow them to tell us the good and the bad, right? The challenges, so that we can work on trying to improve, or, whatever needs to be improved, right? If possible.
Do you say prioritize what you would like the town government to address as immediate needs or changes? And leave it all in one question, and then we give them 4 or 5?
No, because I think you want to do needs as one thing, and then what would you like to see? Because that's got a different connotation.
You gotta be careful in asking the questions to get the answers you want. From a standpoint of, when you say, what is a primary issue facing the town, what is the most important change needed, you've already put them in a negative mindset. We want to know what they want to improve, but we want thoughtful feedback, not just all the above.
So how about we use improvements,
Opportunities.
not opportunities, improvements.
Opportunities. Opportunities for improvement.
Earlier you said.
Actually, if you do that, you could also get rid of 12.
Okay, so question 5 remains.
Oh, was it?
Or
13.
So, were we keeping 1 through 5?
we're good on the top. So the primary issue question, I've replaced it with what Bob Chrisman recommended in his email. Now I'm working on the second question after that. What would you like to see as?
What improvements would you like to see?
What changes or improvements
There you
would you
go.
like to
Okay.
see? And
How's that different than prioritizing?
Immediate needs.
Not,
It's the same thing, right?
well, one is a need, and the other is something that you'd like to see. There's a little bit of an order of magnitude difference there.
If,
Wish list versus need list, necessities versus niceties.
You want it or do you need it?
but I think
In this day and age,
I
everybody
think
wants one.
for immediate need, that's gonna be something that could be still, like, something's broken, we need to fix it. But if we add the end of that question, or an improvement, it could be, well, it's not messed up, it's not broken, but this would be nice to have. You know what I mean? Some people might not have needs in the community. They might say, I love the town just the way it is, but a crosswalk at the park would be very nice.
I would vote for that.
And a sidewalk.
I'd vote for that too.
And some reflector tape. So
You'll
maybe,
be hearing about that in a minute.
maybe we add prioritize what you would like the town government to address as immediate needs or improvements. It gives you both options.
And just leave it at that.
Done.
And then strike everything through
My numbers got off, so
13.
read me the last question, please, of what that would be. Is that what types of business development is needed?
Get rid of questions 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, and start up with road improvements.
Okay, I see it, thank you.
And Emily, earlier in the conversation, you said you wanted to try to keep this to one page.
We're
Is that
getting there.
One page on front, and that's it? Because if that's the case, we're already there.
Yep, I was gonna do one page on front, but what I'll probably do is make it so it's 2 columns and just easy.
Is there enough room then for comments?
I think we could get it down to one page with it, just with enough across the entirety of the page. I think we're going to be short enough that we can get there.
Gotta make sure you're ADA compliant on the size of the font.
I think
No, that is,
That's why you threw away so many of the questions, right? Because you were
that
trying to
is
keep
true, because in the school, when you start doing that
Because I got
stuff,
the
it's
vibe
gotta
you
be a
wanted to
certain
keep
font.
six
We'll be
out of
very
those.
close. I'll work on the formatting to make
There's
it
a lot of
happen.
regulations.
You just do
for
the
that.
instruction page on one side and then the questions on the back.
Yeah, yeah.
That should give you enough room.
If it's one page, it'll maximum be front and back page, maximum.
Front, back, yeah.
Okay, transportation, taking out that title, what road improvements do you believe are needed?
That's a necessary question for our purposes.
Which one are we on? Number,
Not that we can do many.
14, okay.
Yeah,
we're-
14, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're kind of at the mercy of VDOT.
Yes and no. I mean, we're at the mercy of VDOT. We're at the mercy of the county to some respect, in some respects, given how much traffic they're funneling through. But we do have a good bit of discretion on a lot of design features. In fact, we're going to be having quite the discussion, I suspect, in the very near future with respect to the traffic patterns that are created and what solutions will be required for Don Wooden's property. Now that he's, I don't know if you guys are aware, he bought up the other parcel with the CVS and the bank and Chick-fil-A. And
How many more acres? Wasn't that a 21-acre property to begin with?
he bought, it was a 25-acre property, and the other one's what, 14 or 15?
The
Good
first
God.
one's 21, the second one I actually think comes in a little bit lower at like the 10 acres, 10 or 11.
Yeah,
So is this plan to demolish those structures?
Actually,
No,
no.
I actually,
So
I had a
say
meeting.
Chick-fil-A probably get run out of town.
No. I had a meeting with him just last week.
That would be no bueno.
He'll be bringing forward a plan to finish the parcel off. So that site plan, this is kind of a little bit of a divergent here on our survey, but that parcel had 2 pad sites left, 2 possible building areas, and he's going to look at bringing that back to the town and putting in 2 more buildings on the property. He is going to ensure that the interconnected parcel does happen between his first property, Crossroads Village Center, and what we call the Quarles property, which is CVS, the bank, and Chick-fil-A.
And there were some interesting concepts like spine roads thrown around and different egress and ingress points, which
That's not on the table anymore.
it better not be.
It'll keep all of the same egress ingress on Washington Street, and it just adds a interconnected parcel in the back corner.
I'm not sure VDOT's going to like how this turns out with the traffic numbers, though, so to be determined.
So our survey question, do we like it how it is and leave it open-ended for them?
Do you want to just say what traffic instead of road?
Is there
That way you
anything
get the
we can do, though?
signalization and everything else.
Is there truly anything we can do about
Yeah.
road improvements?
Yeah,
There
but
are,
are
there
we-
are a few things we can do. We have an odd charter in the town. We have more control over our roads than any other jurisdiction in the state except for one other town. I can't remember which one it is, which is why we never want to open the charter up, because VDOT would love to take that out. But we do have a considerable amount of influence over the design. Hell, at one point in time, we were going to make some of the roads one way, and if we deemed that we wanted to do that, there's not a whole lot VDOT could do about it. So we do have some latitude, some
Like-
leverage.
From having been a long-term resident here, I would look at that question. What road improvements do you believe are needed? Well, I would want, where the Cupcake Heaven is, that parking lot, pave it. Where the Shriners is, that gravel lot, pave it.
Yeah, but that's not a transportation improvement. That's private property. Well,
Yeah, but
And
so now I got that wrong. Okay, so, but my
What-
impression though is that's a road improvement, because it's, that question's kind of,
But, on a side note, we are working on a paving plan for this property.
yeah.
Um,
So do we have the money though to do the kind of things that the feedback you're gonna get from the town residents? Otherwise, why ask the question? If you don't have the resources to do anything, why ask?
we have significantly more resources than we did. And there are a lot of grant opportunities that are now available that weren't previously. Can we do them all? In a short term, no. In the long term, yes. If the money's managed properly. Are there some things that some people would want that are undoable? Yeah, I mean, there were people that wanted to build a second east-west road behind Town Hall at one point in time, before the townhouses were approved. Was it doable? Theoretically, yes. From a budgetary standpoint, no. Would it have worked? I don't know. Nobody paid a whole lot of attention to it, but yeah, I mean, there are a variety of things we can do, and the money, by and large, is there, at least in the long term.
So I would more clearly define then what do you mean by road improvement then?
I would say traffic rather than road.
All kinds of different interpretations of road improvement.
I would say
Crosswalks,
traffic.
sidewalks, things of that nature.
I mean, you get all kinds of paved parking lots, you know,
Well, then make it public road improvements.
sewer line, like that, what's the road, is it Carolina that goes down by the Shriners?
Yeah.
That whole row of homes all the way down the railroad tracks? That whole one side, it's very narrow in that one piece when you come up. People might say, hey, widen that up. Is that what you're looking for in terms of road improvement, the comments, getting back, you know, what?
Yeah,
what
change
you
it to
look-
road and pedestrian improvements. That cover it?
Do you want road or traffic? What did we decide?
I'm fine with road. I mean, if you want to throw in sidewalks, you can throw that under pedestrian.
It just depends on what you're looking for. What do you know, what does road improvement mean?
You can do road/traffic if you want.
Well, I mean, road generally connotates a public road. Private parking lots are a different story. Not a whole lot we can do about that.
But we could get
We'll call
feedback.
it infrastructure,
Yeah,
town infrastructure.
that,
That covers a much broader.
That's a much broader thing, because then
That
you
might
start
be a
talking
separate
about, that's a
question.
separate question, because then you're talking about town assets, and I use air quotes, in terms of buildings, parking lots.
but if we say what road and pedestrian improvements do you believe are needed, that could also be a little bit eye-opening for us, where you might even have a resident, let's just say Long Street Commons, who say, you know, I think there needs to be more light in my neighborhood, and that's an opportunity for us to not only check some of the things that are in place, but also work better with our HOAs and say, you know, there seems to be a need here in the town. It also helps us determine, do we have enough in our site plan requirements that, you know, is there enough light? Are we up to the current standards? So it could also help us kind of do some of our homework and make sure we're up to par where we need to be. So I'll leave it with what road and pedestrian improvements you believe are needed. Correct?
Sounds good.
Okay. Do you guys want to push through the last 4 questions and be done?
Yes.
Sound good? Okay. I struck out the title economic development. It says what types of business development is needed in the town?
That was an open question, that's why you've got the answer the way it is. It was one of those ones where you just put blanks in. Those were not the answers offered, I don't believe, in the original questionnaire.
Are we looking for our residents to make this determination? Because if we are,
I think their input is necessary.
I think we need to rephrase the question.
What type of businesses are needed in town?
That's how I would phrase it, because you wouldn't necessarily want someone to answer and say, well, I want more office space, because then we would automatically want to know why. Is it because you want to open an office, because you see there's a lack of types of, say, medical offices? So we would rather, I think, want to ask what types of businesses are needed in the town.
Then I would move the next question above that question then. Do the Haymarket shops serve your needs? And then have the question follow on what business, I don't know if businesses is the right word,
But you have a lot of by right businesses that don't need anyone's approval to come here. And a business owner ultimately is going to determine, not the residents. business owner's gonna do his or her due diligence and say, hey, this is a good place for me to do business. I don't really see where the residents determine what businesses come in.
And for example, as much as our community asked for a Trader Joe's, there
It's
was
not
nothing
coming.
we could do to, aside from putting in a request to come visit our community and come check it out, there was nothing we could do to make a Trader Joe's come here. So, you know,
We got its sister company.
yes. So, you know, having feedback on what type of services they would like to see, or if the shops meet their needs. You know, certainly if somebody came in saying, I'd like to develop, this is the kind of business I want to do, we could have some answers that say, X number of people that responded would like you to be here, or it might not equate to anything.
Just another data point that couldn't hurt to have, I think, but I would move the questions around. Otherwise, you're defeating the purpose of the second question.
So the first question would be, do the shops in Haymarket, I'll put, do the businesses,
In Haymarket, serve your needs, and then follow that up with what businesses would you like to see? It's a feel-good question almost,
Haymarket, or are we gonna say the town? Haymarket?
Say the town of Haymarket.
in the town of Haymarket, yeah.
Hey, we're really driving at what our taxpayers want, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who lives in the town, their opinion carries more weight than who lives in Dominion Valley or Piedmont.
Right. Because they're just driving through, they're not stopping and spending money in our businesses, they're just using it.
Well, they're
as a-
not paying town real estate tax.
Nope, they're not
I think
doing
that,
that either.
those questions are kind of hard because the market drives what businesses come here, not the residents. It's the market that drives, like the hotel, they did a study to determine whether or not they would be able to fill those rooms every night. And that doesn't, they could care less about the town residents and what they think, because they care about, you know, okay, they're off of a major interstate highway, they can fill this place because they got battlefields nearby, they got Shenandoah Valley nearby, and how we as a town would have to be very careful who we try to solicit to come in and build a business in this town, because that there's all kinds of discriminatory type liabilities you run into when you try to go out and recruit a business to come in. I would think one question I would try to angle maybe, but I don't know if it's the right one for this particular survey, is I've had folks say, when they hear, oh, you live in Haymarket, yeah, they say, oh, I tried to get a business there, but I can't get it through the town council, I can't get it through the planning commission, I can't get it, you know, I can't get the permits, I can't buy this particular property because this owner won't sell it. Those are the, maybe get those kind of questions that, for feedback. Like I know a lot of town folks wonder, why is it that great building down there is boarded up? And why is that garage over there boarded up by the Shriners Club, you know, behind the bank building? Why is, you know, that Lane's Motor Lodge not being developed? There's a lot of residents have questions about that. But so we as a government, if there's nothing we can do about it, we need to tell the people that.
You can't force the owner to sell a property they're not willing to
Right,
sell.
you can't, and you
At least
can't
not if
force,
the price
so
is
then at
being
the same
offered
time,
them.
right, you can't force them, but you also can't force a business to come in here either. The business
Yeah.
is gonna come in here because they wanna come here because they think they can sell their product. But, so the town, so what I'm asking, I guess, is what good does it do for us to know that 70% of the town residents want a certain type of business in here, when we can't go out there and say, hey, we can't go out as a government and say, we want you to come and set up here, because that's a discriminatory liability that's tremendous.
They could come in handy when people come in the door looking to propose things or SUPs, whether or not you've got a foundation of support for it already existing or not. I don't know how much
I
weight
think-
it would carry.
That would all depend on how many people answer, if we're able to categorize the answers into restaurant, service industry, office.
I mean, the typical response you're gonna get is sit-down restaurant or something like that. And, you know, the question is anybody actually willing to do it?
I mean, really, the follow-up would be after this survey, let's say in 5 years, or 3 or whatever, we send back to the town, based upon your feedback, here's what the town has accomplished based upon your input. I mean, if we can't deliver, then why are we asking the question?
Which is why I think we also need to get rid of question 18,
Because we're
because
just
that's out of
setting
our
ourselves
hands.
up for
Well, actually, no, it's not.
Failure on that one, I think.
And then the comment's going to be, why should I fill this out? You never do what I suggest anyway.
Yeah.
And we don't have the ability to do
I
it.
mean, if you look over in Gainesville, where there used to be the barbecue place over there, and there used to be that Irish pub that's over there, they all went out of business.
Oh, yeah, that
So-
place has been through 6 or 7 different
Yeah, I mean, that tells
restaurants.
you something, you just can't,
Look at Somerset.
yeah, I mean, there's, most of the residents are gonna tell you, we want more unique little mom and pop restaurants. We want some antique shops.
Well, all right,
But what are we gonna, so how are we gonna go and get them?
I mean, part of the problem, though, is, you know, in terms of site design, I mean, the two examples you're citing are two perfect examples of ones with really crappy traffic patterns. Somerset more so than that particular site.
Depressing. It's half of it's vacant.
Well, it was horribly laid out. They knew it when they did it. And the ingress, egress, and the parking lot flow, and it was doomed to fail from the outset. And everything that's gone in there has failed. I mean, how do you have a Shoppers Food Warehouse fail? Well, apart from the million other grocery stores they allowed to put in around it. But I mean,
They thought Lake Manassas would carry a lot of that too, and it didn't.
well, no, but nobody wanted to drive into that lot because
No, I get what you're saying.
a lot of it has to do with site layout. If you buy a restaurant with a lousy site layout and lousy traffic, I mean, and the same thing with the restaurants that, you know,
Well, the rent too. I know.
the
owner of
gateway rents were insane, yeah.
Snap Fitness. He owns Snap Fitness, and he sold it right before it, and then that's been out of business for 2 years now.
Right.
I don't know. Bonefish.
Bonefish and Glory Days are the only original tenants left, I think.
Lido's is doing
Oh,
pretty
no, Lido came in later. They weren't the original tenant there. No, they took over the Quiznos space.
I've been there a long time.
Yeah.
Remember when
So
Quiznos was
do we
there?
wanna ask 15, 16, and
So
17 then?
what I was gonna actually recommend, do you guys want to ask, do the businesses in the town of Haymarket serve your needs? Yes, no, they can provide a comment, and then follow up with what additional businesses or services do you wanna see in the town? Because then they can say a business or a service, it's an open-ended question, they can supply an answer, and we just leave it at that, instead of what type of businesses are needed. We don't narrow it down for them, we just leave it, what additional businesses or services do you want to see?
And then you do need to leave question 18 because that is an issue that we're addressing.
But then if we ask that question and we don't fulfill the town residents,
It could provide, like I said, it could provide you a data point when some stuff comes in, like an SUP. If somebody's coming in, they want to do an SUP for X or Y, but they're not sure which one they want to do with, and they meet with Emily. You go, here are the options we're looking at. You know, well, based on the feedback, here's what we think the residents want.
Here's a maybe more of an even real kind of data point that we could use for it. If they say that additional businesses are needed, that we can look through a zoning ordinance and make sure, one, do we include all those businesses? If we don't, why do we not include them? What makes it so that the town chose not to include them in the zoning ordinance? But also, maybe then, in our comprehensive plan discussion, if we recognize area for transitional commercial, maybe we put in there, you know, businesses in this area could include, and then we can go through some of the things they've stated. Maybe they're walkable businesses, maybe they're, you know, fine dining, you know, so we can hit some of that data into what we would envision in those different zoning districts.
So you're going to get. Where's my marijuana distributor at?
It could be an answer.
but I would just caution, and maybe I'm too geared towards federal government, legal stuff, but if we as a planning commission, as a town said, somebody comes in with a bid for a business or something, and we say, well, the majority of the town residents really want this kind of business, you're opening yourself up to an ACLU type litigation where they look at your demographics of your community and they're gonna say, they could use the angle of, well, your demographics is this one way, and you're saying, okay, these kind of businesses, they tend to fit into that one demographic, you're excluding other demographics out of the bidding process.
But it's a
Do you really
suggestion,
want to
right?
open the town up to that type of potential liability?
But it's a suggestion. I don't think it's going to be
I mean, at the
required
end of the
of them.
day, their by right uses are their by right uses, and we don't really have any control over that. I mean,
Right, so why ask that, why even put yourself out there
I-
as a
I'm
government to
I'm
do
not
that?
wedded to the question. I mean,
I don't know the whole thing about soliciting a business to come into the town, liabilities. Maybe it's because if they're not successful in the town, they can sue the town. I'm not sure, but I don't have any issue with knowing what the preferences of the town residents, are, right?
Running out of room anyway.
I just think we want to hit on things that we can deliver.
you could also look at it, is it something nice to know? Does it serve a function other than allowing them to point out what they'd like to see? Probably not. Does that give us a sense of where the community is at? Maybe.
It might even influence an SUP, right? Somebody might be coming
could
in and say,
potentially
hey,
influence an
I want to
SUP,
put up an SUP, and the preferences might make, because
It could influence a zoning text amendment if somebody saw a demand for it and they came in and they filed a zoning text amendment to
Yeah.
add a use. Because, I mean, let's say that all of a sudden everybody in town wanted a porn shop in town. We currently don't allow it, but I don't think we do, right?
No.
I can't remember from a year ago. I mean, it's another data point. Is it less valuable than some of the other ones? Probably. Does that necessarily mean we don't get that feedback? You know, I can take it or leave it. I'm not.
What do they do in the real estate business? When somebody comes to buy a home and they ask the real estate agent, what are the demographics of the community?
You're losing your license. Because
So I
that's
would-
called steering and redlining, and you can lose your license real quick.
And I would equate that very same thing to what this question.
You don't ask that question.
Right. So that's why I'm bringing that up, because that's kind of what we're doing here. If you're gonna ask those questions, what kind of businesses do you want in this town? And then this planning commission then goes and tries to influence what's coming in. That's a similar.
Yeah, fair housing would be all over you.
So I would think the ACLU and all the other organizations would come in if they saw, town of Haymarket, or the county would say, why are you guys laying out demographic data to putting that out there on what your people want?
I agree with you. The only thing, the county is actively pursuing data centers. So, I mean, there is a fine line. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but the county's pursuing data centers and,
Don't get Bob going on that.
Don't take me down that road.
I mean, do you think we have enough,
So
if,
let's just go around. Let's just, what would you say, take it out?
I wouldn't go anywhere near those, yeah.
Take it out, take
I
it out,
take it out?
I think we got enough questions.
I'm
We're running out
agnostic
of room
on it, so
anyway.
I don't care.
take it out.
Okay, it's removed. Last question, 2 questions. Do we want to leave the question, what additional services you want to see in the town, but rephrase it to say, what additional services do you want to see provided by the town of Haymarket?
You've already addressed that earlier in the survey.
Okay, so take it out. Next, last question. Do you think there is a need for more recreational opportunities in town? I think it's fine to leave this question in there. I think it's good feedback.
Could,
What's recreational opportunity? Like, what do you mean by that?
So, playing fields, if there's an addition at the park that they would like to see. You know, we are limited by land, we are limited to what we own, but if somebody were to write in that they'd like to see a baseball field, you know, soccer fields.
can I offer a suggestion on
Yes.
this? How about, what would you like to see done at the park in town to complete it? Because we did a bunch of charrettes 7, 8 years ago about amphitheater, you know, pavilion. We've made strides in a playground, but there's so much that could be done to that park to make it a community draw. And that's something we could do.
Yeah,
If we say you want 6 soccer fields, where are we gonna put them?
Right.
But there are other recreational field and other commercial opportunities that are available. So I think the question has to be a little more open-ended than just the park. Perhaps we need to do a question strictly about the park.
yeah.
That's something we
You
could
also
deliver
need
on.
the overarching other ones that can be delivered on outside of the park.
Yeah, because wasn't that on the list for capital improvements?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
What would you like to see done at the Haymarket Community Park to complete it?
I wouldn't even go that far. I would just say, what would you like to see done at the Haymarket Community Park? And then leave the last question the way it is, but after the community park question. Because the community park could be more than just recreational. It could be cultural, it could be community-based. Could be any number of things.
Well, the only land the town owns, correct me if I'm wrong, Emily, is the park and this property, correct?
And the museum.
Well, museum. So we really can't deliver on any recreational because we don't have, the only land we have for any recreation is the park, which we can affect.
Quite true.
I mean, what can we impact?
We can still impact QBE, and we can impact some of the developments that are coming in with open space or,
But we don't own QBE, right?
but we still have an option on the fields.
If we want to rent them, right?
If we want to rent them.
Fair market value. I don't know if we could afford to do that.
I don't either.
I'm with Matt, just focus on what we can do. The bike, when you look at that, for me, I look at that question and say, well, we're recreational opportunities, what is that? Is that the bike trail that runs up and down the 55?
That could be
That's-
part of it, yeah.
You know, I don't know if that's part of it, but I really,
There are trail opportunities on the other side of town that are actually within the town, but part of a housing complex that is outside of the town limits. We've got some stuff coming in, potentially coming into the conservation area up off of 15. So there are a lot of opportunities. It's just, how realistic are they? Hard to say at this point in time, but they are nonetheless opportunities. So until those opportunities close or are precluded, I would just leave it that way. Because there is funding for it right now.
I mean, once upon a time in that original thing, Emily, there was a basketball court at the town park, there's a volleyball court, there's amphitheater, there was a pavilion.
Community center.
Community.
trails,
Right.
volleyball court.
Yeah,
Town hall at one point in time, a really ugly one.
Lot of different options. So I'll leave the question in to read, what would you like to see done at the Haymarket Community Park, and then what did we decide on the other part?
I would just leave it the way it is. That's no question. Either there's enough or there's not.
Okay.
And how we pursue it is dependent on opportunity and funding.
If everyone's good with that, I will work on formatting and we will proceed with proofreading and sending it out.
Does that take us down to 14 or 15 questions?
I have to look back, my numbers got messed up.
Well, we eliminated, what, 8? 6 through 13?
6 through 13? Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then 15?
Are we keeping 16 and 17?
No, we changed that. Essentially, we just kept 17, got rid of 16. We just reworded 17.
And we're keeping 18.
Keeping
And
18,
we're keeping 18.
but putting the park in
Parking,
above
yeah,
it.
Right, okay.
I have 9 questions left.
Question 10, name. There, now it's an even number.
17 again, how are we rewording it?
We did really cut it
Can you
in
read
half.
me 17 up there?
Do shops and Haymarket serve your needs?
We took all those out.
Those are all
I
gone.
thought we left that one out.
I thought we took them all out.
I thought we took it out.
That's what I thought so
Yeah,
too.
I thought we took out
Still
all
don't
of
know
them
how
on
to fit 9
businesses.
questions
Oh,
on
okay.
one page.
I just thought we were taking that one out. I'm fine.
Oh.
I'll probably add a 10th question to make it nice and even, and just, is there anything else you would like to add?
Or just
Do you
put,
have any additional comments?
Any
yeah,
additional
I like
info?
that.
Okay.
Or just additional comments and then a blank?
That might be good because depending on, like if it's a second page, might be able to give them a few lines to really.
Write me a paragraph.
The challenge is going to be analyzing
Oh, yeah,
the response.
right.
Okay, so with that, I think we've discussed it and we've made it through. I will, let's see, it's 22nd. We will send it out in March prior to our next meeting. We'll get it formatted, typed up, and sent out.
And our next meeting's the 21st of March, correct?
Yes, so we'll probably aim to have it, since the 1st is just next week, we'll probably aim to have it in the mail the week of the 14th. And then we'll give them, how long do you guys want to give them for review time? Or answer time?
3 to 4 weeks?
3 to 4 weeks?
I wouldn't give them much longer than that. Give them much longer than that, it's gonna get lost or shredded, so. I mean, ideally, I'd give them less time, but to be fair,
Yeah, especially with the mail.
yeah. Here, don't get me started on that one
Say I
either.
got something today
Still
that was
getting-
mailed on
I'm still
December
waiting on
20th
Christmas cards.
Okay, we will do
with your $5.
a 3 to 4 week turnaround.
I'm getting checks in my office that were mailed 3 or 4 months ago.
I believe it.
It's insane.
Yeah, piecemeal today, postmarked December 20th.
Luckily for Long Street Commons, our mailman didn't knock over the, you remember that?
Mailbox? Yes.
Yeah.
We didn't have that this year.
Always a benefit. Okay, I think we can move on to old business. So, Crossroads Village Center, as everybody has seen, is going through the grading process. They are doing blasting. For the most part, right now, it is blasting daily, and they do plan to have about another 3 weeks of blasting. They will shortly be doing some blasting that's closer to Washington Street and will require them to shut down the road for very brief intervals while they do the blasting, make sure the road's clear, and then reopen it up. We are working with our police department to ensure that there's no safety issues or traffic backup should this become a problem. They will mitigate before they close the road again. You'll see those signs going up of when that's scheduled. Robinson Village, which is the property that's along Washington Street, they are down at the building department right now working on pulling their permits for the townhouse structures. They have laid some foundations in there, so they're moving along very well. The hotel is slated to open in the beginning of March. They're going through their final items. As you probably see tonight, they're over there working hard and into the evening on the interior to make sure everything's ready. So that's everything I have for old business unless anyone has questions.
Question, for the hotel, what's the expected, I know it's going to be based on occupancy, but what's the expected revenue, tax revenue?
That I am not sure of. That I would have to ask the treasurer to
Treasurer, okay.
kind of give an estimate on.
You talking TOT?
We're hoping,
If you want a best guess that we came up with, what did we say, $30,000?
I believe
just the room tax though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
30,000 per year?
That would not include the meals tax from the restaurant.
We're hoping that they're
And that's
gonna go
to
grab
be
coffee
determined
at
because there's some legislation
Chick-fil-A.
that I was supposed to check on this afternoon and I
They're going
forgot
to, definitely.
that may
That's what
reduce
I'm
it.
That's gonna be the draw.
That's what I'm
Any
thinking.
other old business questions? Nope. Okay, new business, we already touched on it a little bit here. We will be having a site plan amendment come in from, again, Don and his team in regards to the Quarles property. When I say Quarles, I'm referencing the corner property that has CVS, the bank, and Chick-fil-A. Depending on what they are choosing to do as an amendment, it may trigger just a simple minor site plan amendment. That'll stay with myself and the town engineer. But again, depending on what they do, it could trigger a major site plan, which it would then come to the planning commission. So I will keep everybody updated on that. It'll be several weeks' time before we get in that process. Any new business questions?
I have a question. So,
Yes.
so the existing Chick-fil-A, CVS, and so forth, they exist on a leased land, and he bought the land. Is that what happened?
Yes, correct. They have ground leases.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, we have the architectural review board update with you.
I missed the meeting. I need your
Okay.
help on this one.
So for the architectural review board, we met last week. The board did a sign application for Haymarket Baptist Church and Preschool. That was approved and will be updated here shortly once they can get the signs on order. They said it'll probably be about April timeframe. And then we also had 2 applications for demolition permits. The first was for the firehouse structure at 14941 Washington Street, and the second was for 6707 Jefferson Street. That is the white building sitting behind the old bank building that's boarded up with the green metal roof. And then, of course, the firehouse structure sits on Washington Street. Mr. Leek was here that evening to give a presentation to the Architectural Review Board on behalf of the property owners, the ZCOs. We will be coming back to the board again with another discussion. The board meeting was moved to March 23rd, and we are working to schedule site visits with the board and the applicant, Mr. Leek, so that we can go through the structures and take a look at them in person. If anybody's interested, there is a presentation and the discussion on our video from the Architectural Review Board, and it gives some insight into the process and what they're requesting. So that was the Architectural Review Board update for this month.
Emily, can you repeat, when was that meeting again? It's the sixth, it's not the 16th?
We're looking to bump it to March 23rd.
Oh,
It's
so
the
it would be
following
after.
Wednesday.
Okay.
Yes, based on a scheduling conflict with some of the other board members, but
With
we
Sheridan,
can,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
we can certainly discuss if that date doesn't work, we can pitch out.
Should
other
be fine.
dates.
And then 6 o'clock, we're gonna meet at the property?
Yes.
Okay, let me just write that down so I don't forget.
Are there any ARB questions from the planning commission? Okay. We are on to town council updates.
Not a whole lot. Budget season has begun. The first of the budget hearings and workshops will be upcoming and published. As part of the budget, we are going to probably move the bulk of our ARP money, taking advantage of what is essentially the equivalent of a standard deduction, and moving it into a CIP fund to cover largely construction costs. And again, we'll talk about that during the budget hearings. For those who weren't aware, the Crossroads SUP was denied at the last town council meeting, and the only other thing of particular note is that the RFP for the sidewalk in front of the park will be,
Should be finalized here in the next couple days, week, and posted out. as
and we're
soon
not
as
going to see that,
council-
that's already been approved by us, by the town council, and you guys are just going to release it, correct?
Correct.
And that'll be for the design for the sidewalk in front of the park. That's all I got.
All right. Is there anything else to discuss? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Oh. Where do we stand on, does Katie have that now, still?
Katie has that now. She was finalizing comments on Taco